During World War II, the American Red Cross was extremely active, but in more ways than you would think. But to get the obvious out of the way, they filled gaps in medical personnel. They made emergency supplies for victims of war, ran programs for home nutrition, first aid, and safety, as well as ran scrap drives and victory gardens. The American Red Cross involvement in World War II started before the United States entered the conflict. When conflict began in 1939, the Red Cross became, quote, the chief provider of relief supplies for civilian victims of conflict distributed by the Geneva-based International Red Cross Committee. In February 1941, the Red Cross, upon request of the U.S. government, began a donor blood service to produce life-saving plasma for the armed forces in anticipation of America's entry into the war. If you want to know more about plasma, click the video above. After the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the Red Cross quickly created a volunteer and staff force to fulfill the mandates of its 1905 charter requiring the organization, quote, furnish volunteer aid to sick and wounded of armies in time of war, and to act in matters of voluntary relief in accord with the military and naval authorities, as a medium of communication between the people of the United States of America and their Army and Navy. They were also in the field by operating clubs and clubmobiles. They could follow hospitals, hospital ships, and hospital training. MacArthur, talking about ARC to Congress on June 18, 1945, said, the Red Cross, with its clubs for recreation, its coffee and donuts in forward areas, its readiness to meet the needs of the well and to minister to the wounded, has often been friendly hand of the nation, reaching across the sea to support its fighting men. Though this was not a loss of ARC personnel, 86 Red Cross workers died. Of those, 52 were women and 34 men. The Red Cross also spent a ton of money. In total, they spent $784,992,995 for the whole war. Also, during the war, 6,600,000 people donated blood during the war. All service members had access to their services, as well as merchant marines, civilian pilots working with the Army. Each ARC service came with 3 different styles. They were to give counsel and guidance to servicemen and women, provide a means of communication between members of the armed forces and their families at home, securing reports on family conditions at home and other matters of concern to servicemen and women and military authorities, making available financial assistance in form of loans and grants to meet emergency needs, distributing comfort articles and other supplies needed. Clubs were made because of the requests from the U.S. government to the armed forces overseas. RedCross.org states, while recreational services for military at home remained, as it had been, limited to hospitals, overseas the Red Cross staff supplied permanent service clubs, traveling clubmobiles, and other recreational facilities that stretched literally around the world. At its peak, the Red Cross operated nearly 2,000 recreational service facilities abroad, staffed by 5,000 Red Cross workers and approximately 140,000 mostly local volunteers. All American Red Cross chapters provided home service for the benefit of families of service members. In many cases, home service workers maintained close touch with camp and hospital service field directors, as information moved back and forth between military installations and home communities. Home service responsibilities included construction and guidance in personal family problems, communication between service personnel and family members, information and help with government regulations, pensions, and other benefits, and financial assistance in the form of loans or grants based on need, as well as furnishing the armed forces with reports to aid military authorities in making discharge and furlough decisions. The Red Cross had a few more directly wartime services. After the war began, the military asked the Red Cross to give first aid and water safety training. Quote, teaching the men how to save lives and swim under battle conditions, Red Cross instructors taught sailors how to swim in water covered with burning fuel, as it might occur after a ship was torpedoed. They trained airmen to take care of themselves. It forced to land on water and trained soldiers to swim carrying full pack. In the later part of the war, the Red Cross introduced convalescent swimming. It helped rehabilitate disabled men by wounds and amputations for those suffering from battle fatigue. The Red Cross also offered first aid courses to the military. In all, the Red Cross issued 586,000 first aid and water safety certifications to members of the armed forces during the war years. During the First World War, the Red Cross enrolled nurses for service in the military, with some serving directly with the armed forces as Red Cross nurses. During World War II, the Red Cross recruited nurses once more and enrolled them in Red Cross nursing service and certified those qualified by military standards. Quote, during the period of 1939 to 1936, the Red Cross nursing service enrolled 212,000 nurses and certified half of them in the military. Of these, 71,000 actually served, representing a total of 9% of the nurses in the service to the military during the war, at home and overseas. On the home front, Red Cross nurses undertook extended responsibilities due to the shortage of physicians and nurses caused by the war and outbreaks of communicable diseases fostered by the close quarters of military camps in congested metropolitan areas. It wasn't just adults. The Red Cross had nearly 20 million youth members in 1945, reaching those peaks because of the war. Quote, a remarkable figure that represented 75% of all the total school population. Junior members took part in the war effort by producing comfort items and clothing for military members, preparing gift boxes for children overseas, and assisting in war-related programs, like the Victory Book collections and assisting with the Victory Gardens. The Red Cross also spread to college campuses in 1942, and 187 institutions partook in the Red Cross war-related activities. Quote, college students contributed to the War Fund campaigns, provided many hours of volunteer service, and enrolled in many Red Cross training courses. Along with its other services, it gave out relief packages for nearly 1.4 million U.S. and Allied prisoners. These are primarily made to help American POWs in enemy prisons. These were sometimes equally distributed among other Allied prisoners as well, and in some cases helped lighten the load of civilian prisoners too. Though some cases of German guards raided these supplies, the end of the war created the problem too. It affected the distribution of the mail in these packages because of this change in overall military situation. Most of the goods were given out in these are, quote, most of the goods provided by the American Red Cross were food packages in uniform size 10 by 10 by 4.5 and weighed 11 pounds that contained such non-perishable items such as prunes, raisins, liver pate, coffee, corned beef, sugar, dried milk, I can't say that, biscuits, orange concentrate, cheese, canned salmon or tuna, chocolate bars, cigarettes, and soap. Officially called American Red Cross Prisoner of War Package Number 10. Some packages had medical supplies, like American Red Cross Prisoner of War Kit Number 4, and others had seeds and gardening supplies. During Christmas time in 1944, the Red Cross made packages for POWs in Germany. Quote, more than 75,000 units were shipped from Philadelphia to Gothenburg, together with large quantities of standard food packages and other supplies. The end of the war barely showed the end to Red Cross activities in service to the military and victims of war. The Red Cross workers slipped across Europe alongside the Allied troops, and they went along with occupation troops as they entered Japan. They worked with services that they had for liberated prisoners of war and civilian internees. They stood with uneasy troops waiting to return home. On the domestic scene, they gave comforts and guidance to thousands of returning servicemen and women at ports and train stations, and at chapters, on every step of the way home. They also provided services to sick and wounded individuals who evacuated to the United States as the Red Cross prepared for a long-range peacetime programs and service to veterans in hospitals. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more, click the videos on the left and the right. If you have any video suggestions or comment questions, comment them below. Have a great day.